Hello internet friends, and welcome to the Restoration Druid second pass. And as with all of the healers right now during the Legion testing phases, they are going to be a little bit more brief than others. DPS obviously probably have the most to talk about due to DPS synergies and cooldown nonsensical things and all the other mumbo jumbo. But healers and tanks are a little bit more straightforward. Like, this heals like this. And in a way, after we got through everything for the Restoration Druid, there are some pretty definitive styles to heal, and then talents to take. So if you love trying to be a single target healer, or you're PvPing, there are definitely some baseline talents that are going to increase that. There are a lot of utility-oriented things and additional cooldown stuff you can do with the Restoration Druid. And then, of course, if you just want to, like, hot the world, then you can do that as well. So we'll go through the basic spellbook. Ignore everything that you see that is not a, that says talent on it, or anything that looks like it's from the Balanced Druid stuff, other than the ones that I go over, because there are some things in here that you're going to see that are from talents, whatever. But we're going to go through the basic spellbook, your abilities, then we'll go through your artifact weapon, which, let's get this out of the way now. How is it pronounced? YouTube comments, help me out in the future here. So, it's either Gaharin, or Heron, or just like Gunir, or Gahanir. Like, how is the apostrophe H, and then where is the other break in the word separated? I'm gonna mostly refer to it as the mother tree for most of this testing, or I'm just going to say, oh gosh, we talked about during the stream for like probably a half an hour. So, but I like Gahanir myself, but that might be putting too much emphasis on the wrong syllables, so I'll probably just refer to it lovingly, of course, with respect, as the mother tree from now on, so don't freak out too much. But let me know in the comments down below if there's like an actual pronunciation that we know that is real. Otherwise, when the voice acting comes in the game and the NPCs or the quest givers pronounce it, then we'll know. But until then, it is the big twig. How about that? The big twig. I like it. So, and then we'll go with big twig stuff, and then we'll go into talents, of course, at the end. Druid stuff that is the same for all things, and we will jump to talents early on in this spellbook here, so don't freak out too much. We'll be going for your passive, which is Ysera's Gift. As with all the other talents you have here, you have this 45 tier line, which is your affinities. They have sort of simplified, in a way, or removed things from, like, being able to switch into any form and have like full utilization of those forms' abilities. You get to pick what your affinity is to. And I'm going to have balance affinity talented here most of the time because arguably after all of our testing, this is probably the best one for restoration. Where we're thinking like, well, how are we going to quest as Restoration Druid? Because baseline, we do have Solar Wrath, Sunfire, and Moonfire here with Hurricane for like questing and doing damage and whatnot, because you're supposed to be able to quest as a healer. But for the most part, we think that taking Balance Affinity not only gives you the extra range on all of your heals, which is incredibly powerful. There's a couple of them that double dip in a way. But having 5 more yards on all of your heals is pretty damn good. But then also you gain not a full-powered version of Moonkin, but the biggest change to this, if you remember back from when I tested this in first pass, Moonkin form was a cooldown. That is no longer the case. It is just a shape-shifting form you gained from Balance Affinity. It is not a cooldown for Guardian Druid either. And there's also a minute-and-a-half cooldown, if I remember correctly, for Feral Druid, for kitty cats. Because they're already a DPS class anyway, so they shouldn't just get a ranged DPS form with no repercussions. So it is a cooldown for them and not a cooldown for you or bears. But you gain the Moonkin form bonus of the bonus armor, protection, polymorph effects, and the active shapeshifting, of course, removes movement impairing effects as well. You don't gain, like, the Owlkin Frenzy. You don't gain the extra arcane and nature damage. And you'll gain Star Surge, which is a cooldown-oriented ability to just buff your next Lunar Strike or Wrath. So the better way probably to DPS and to quest as a Balanced Druid is actually to quest as a Restokin, most likely, because you actually gain some synergistic stuff as a Restokin. You could probably go as a Feral Kitty too, but you only get Shred, Rip, Ferocious Bite, and Swipe. It's really slow. It feels really slow. But the Feline Swiftness passive is also probably pretty good for raids as well. Or the Guardian Affinity for the Thick Hide damage reduction. But because you're a Resto Druid, you have Ysera's Gift passively. So it's a 3% heal of your maximum health every 5 seconds, and if you're at full health, you'll heal a random nearby injured ally as well. Omen of Clarity stuck around, where you have a 4% chance on your Life Bloom ticks to cause a clear casting state, making your next regrowth cost no mana. I will also, as I start going over here to the heals now, in this latest build, you cannot see HOTS on friendly targets, which is unfortunate because how do you see things? So, for the purposes of testing stuff and for looking at timers and whatever, please refer to my buffs in the top right corner when you're looking for things and different hot stacking and whatnot, because it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to show you on the dummies because you can't see them. You'll see the numbers ticking on them, right? You can see the combat log, you can like pause and go through, but there are going to be a lot of hots in this video, so it might be a little difficult to try to parse through that just by visual information. But unfortunately, the portraits are broken. It's beta. They're still testing stuff. But, you know, what can I do? So, spellbook stuff. Omen of Clarity is what it is. It's just a mana cooldown, basically. I'll jump over to Living Seed real quick, which is just on critically healed targets from your Swift Mend, Regrowth, or Healing Touch. You'll plant a Living Seed on the target. When the target is next attacked, the seed will pop for 50% of the initial heal, and the seed lasts for 15 seconds. There, right there. So it's 50% of the heal that Regrowth hit me for, and Living Seed is just a kind of like a prayer of mending or so. When you get popped in the face, it'll heal you. This is Astral Influence. This is the Balance Druid Mastery little passive thing. I guess sorry, not the Mastery, the Affinity for having Balance Druid. And your Mastery now, which I misunderstood this back when I did the first pass. The Mastery does affect even putting one hot on yourself. So what that means is that it's an additive bonus of your multiplicative bonus of your Mastery. So right now it's 8.3% with the Mother Tree on. It is a 9% bonus. But even having just one hot on yourself does increase the overall healing it does. We did a bunch of different math testing and going through and adding up what the tooltips say, what the actual ticks are. The tooltip will tell you your basic amount healed before versatility and mastery. But the mastery the versatility bonus is obviously affected already, but we did notice that the mastery bonus is applied even on one hot. So if you have one, that's one stack of mastery. Here's 2 stacks of mastery. Here's 3 stacks of mastery. Here's 4 stacks of mastery. You know, so you can gain a bunch. Overall, as you'll see as we go through this, you'll be able to actually have 7 heal over times on a target. Obviously, you can't control that all the time because 2 of them are randomized in a way of Spring Blossom and Wild Growth. But if you like healings over time, zings, as a Resto Druid, you can do that for sure. I'm going to go through your heals right now, of course. Wild Growth is 6 targets default. It's your most expensive spell. And it is 7 seconds of a duration, and the healing amount is high, and then it declines over time. Wild Growth heals once every second for 7 seconds, and it's a percentage-based decline in the potency of the heal at the first second toward the final second where it falls off. 10-second cooldown. You have Swift Mend as well, which is an instant cast. Whatcha! Just a heal for a moderate amount, 30-second cooldown. Cost okay mana. Your Rejuvenation is your bread and butter. Spread that all over the place just like you would butter on a biscuit. This is your main heal. It heals instantly, and then it will heal once every 3 seconds. Determined by haste, of course, as haste with hots means the more haste you have, the more hots it'll squeeze into that duration. And of course, at the very end of a Rejuvenate, you will see a partial tick that is based on the remaining amount pushed forward by your heal. Ignore Cultivation right now. That is a talent. But Rejuvenation will always have a on-hit heal, and then it will heal, based on my current haste, I believe it's 7 more times, only at 10%. So you'll see 8 ticks in total. It's 4, but the final one will be a partial, because that's what's left over from trying to make another tick happen, and that's right there, in that duration window, based on your haste you have right now. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. As you gain more haste, of course, you'll have another full heal and then another partial to have 8 ticks, etc., etc. Regrowth has a 60% increased critical strike chance. It is like your flash heal still. It is a quick, rather costly heal. that does work with Living Seed quite a lot, but has a very small and weak, that's a new word, heal attached to the, like a little hot after it. You also have Life Bloom, only limited to one target, but this heals over 15 seconds. It heals every second it ticks. Of course, that's hastened by haste, of course, the same way other hots are. And this is the synergy, of course, with Omen of Clarity. You're only going to have one Life Bloom up, normally on a tank most times, or any DPS. There's the Omen of Clarity proc right there. Or someone that's taking a ton of damage, all of a sudden you need to top them off immediately. And then you have Healing Touch, which... Healing Touch, based on your mana regen, even just in, like, at level 110, this is a free spell. It is, you can cast this forever, and you literally don't incur, like, any mana loss, because it is so cheap, but it is only a single target heal. So, do with what you will. It doesn't cost anything. And then you have Efflorescence, which is replacing the mushrooms. Efflorescence right now is just a lot of mana. It's an instant blop, and it has no cooldown to move around again, of course, if you want to. And it just heals injured allies within the 10-yard radius from the middle, or 20-yard diameter, I guess, across the circle. And, because it's about 5 yards here and 5. But it's a pretty big area of effect. And the ticks that it does, it says 1.8 seconds for 30 seconds, limit down to one efflorescence at a time. As just any other hot does, the ticks of it happen faster with more haste you have. So eventually, the more haste that you have as a Resto Druid, the faster Efflo a tick, the more ticks in a hot window you can actually achieve. So the main, I would imagine, the main enhancements you would want to have on your Druid would probably be Haste and Mastery, or Mastery and Haste. We talked about this in the stream today, that just because of how easy Harmony is to stack, and how proportionally difficult it is to stack, because you can never just stack tons of hots on a person. Like you can hot up a tank, but like random Joe Raider off in the corner that's hit by fire, you can obviously target him with a, a regrowth and a rejuvenation. But if his damage isn't that severe, they don't need to, you can't always time that your ticks of Efflo will heal them, or that your wild growth will even heal them either. And because mana matters in Legion a lot more than it does right now in live, you have to always make sure you're healing efficiently. And we made the argument for versatility being like a flat healing increase as it is. It's kind of like a simpler version of your mastery. It's active all the time, but obviously has no multiplicative stacking bonuses from how your mastery does work. And then in Critical Strike for Restoration Druids, crit will mean more because damage is sticky, in a sense that because we have a lot more HP, which they did nerf the HP scaling a little bit, which I'll show in the artifact when we get there in Legion. But damage will stay around a lot longer. And you, as a healing team, as I went over in my Mistweaver video, have a lot more responsibility to not only heal correctly, but heal together in a way that someone in your healing team is not just wasting a bunch of mana by spamming regrowth, like, inefficiently. Like, don't do that. So there's a give and take on how to properly manage your mana. And Critical Strike, like having a crit regrowth, will feel so much better, because not only will it be a larger heal, you'll also get Living Seed popped on them as well, or having hots ticking and them critting here and there will also help counter damage and dots and whatever like that. So because damage is stickier in Legion, Critical Strike might not be as terrible, but the only Critical Strike synergy you really have is Living Seed directly. But those are your baseline heals. You will see Innervate on my bar down there. Innervate is the Balance and Restoration Druid utility, right? And it is a 40-yard range, 45 with Astral Influence. It's a 3-minute cooldown where you infuse a friendly healer with energy, allowing them to cast their spells without spending mana for 10 seconds. So you go to town, you can cast a whole bunch of spells, you ain't gonna cost no mana. The Balance Druid version is kind of stronger in a way, due to the fact that they have a artifact perk that buffs their version of Innervate, but the Restoration one can be used personally, or of course can be used whenever your healing team needs a cooldown on a certain person. If you're going to Innervate your Mistweaver Monk that's going to go effuse crazy nonsense spam with Essence Font and Rushing Jade Wind and all this other craziness, you can help them out by making them cost 0 mana, because again, mana matters. You have Entangling Roots, as well as Ursol's Vortex baseline. Where is that little crazy thing? Where are you, Ursol's Vortex? Right there. These are your 2 default ways for crowd control. You do have Cyclone, but as a PvP talent, so you will not have that for raiding. All healers have a single target res and an AoE res. I have not been able to test this yet to see if there actually is an AoE res debuff, but I'm not sure. Nature's Cure, of course, is magic, curse, and poison effects. 8-second cooldown once you do remove a affliction on your target. You have Bark Skin as your baseline ability to reduce damage taken. It has this little bark effect that doesn't actually work on the Worgen, I don't think. It worked on my Bear Druid form, where it actually animated on a way that, well, it doesn't work when you actually go forms. Oh, well. But it's 20% damage reduction for 12 seconds, and you are immune to casting pushback on a 1-minute cooldown. Then, of course, you also have Iron Bark, which is a 90-second cooldown by default, 20% DR, and it can be cast on someone else. This keeps the little halo of Thorns effect. Yeah, that's rude. That Barkskin used to have, but that's what it is, because, you know, you can cast it on someone else. And that's the basic toolkit. Not a whole lot of changes directly, other than possibly Tranquility, which is now all the, like, raid throughput huge heals are a lot stronger when not in a raid group, which makes them more beneficial for 5-mans. As in a raid, you're obviously healing more people. And with balance affinity here, you are noticing that the radius of Tranquility is 45 freaking yards, which is nuts. The extra 5-yard range thing that pops up on the top above the cooldown is a bug, I would imagine. And of course, if you want to see any of the bug reports we have here, I didn't preface at the beginning of the video. Way to fail your intro, Adam. The VODs are linked down below. The bugs and notes are linked down below, as well as additional ways to support what I do here and all of my socially things in the description box down below. I like to make really complete description boxes because there's lots of information that could be found down there that can answer some questions I see in the comments quite a lot. That's the basic toolkit, though. That's it. You still have, of course, Travel Form and your Bear Form. You have Growl. If you are a class that has a tank as part of your spec, you do have the single target taunt as well. But that's the whole thing. You have Dash, puts you into cat form. You only gain the sprint while in cat form. And again, you only have Lunar Strike on the bar here and Star Surge because I took the balance affinity. But for the most part, stack hots, cast hots, keep up rejuves, keep up your life bloom, cast wild growth when you need to, keep down your efflorescence if you also need to as well, and you have your burst heal for Swiftmen if you need it. So let's equip the Mother Tree here, and we'll go through what the Mother Tree brings to the table. At the beginning, there was a source of healing and balance, a place where all life could rest and revive. On Ganir. Ganir? The big stick. The fancy twig, as it were. So, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but the power involved in the Mother Tree for the Restoration Druid is kind of insane. It's some of the most potent... I've only tested 2 healing classes so far, but potent healing cooldowns and synergies I've ever seen. So far, anyway. So, it grants you the essence of Ganir, essence of the Mother Tree, which, at first glance, isn't incredibly amazing until you couple it with things later on down the road here. 90-second cooldown to release the natural power within the big stick to increase the frequency that all of your healer time affects heal allies by 100% for 8 seconds. Now, this does not do anything to the HOTS that are active. It doesn't buff them directly. It'll buff you. You'll see the buff pops up on the Druid, and then all HOTS you have active, the duration at which they would tick normally, based on whatever haste factor you have involved, they'll be twice as fast. So by default, take a Life Bloom, for example. It ticks once a second. 58, 59, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, partial because of my haste, 5, 6, right? Every 1 second. Now, if you cast, I'm gonna put some DPS out here just so I can move my combat log a little bit. I'm gonna cast some Wraths here. Solar Wrath, wow. So, when you use the essence of the Mother Tree, if you have any HOTS active, it will speed up their time by 8 seconds on you. So now watch how much faster it ticks. It's a 0.5 second delay on ticks. The same amount of healing is done. It is just a faster interval. So immediately your little Restoration Druid brain is probably turning right now going, oh my goodness. And you're totally right. Once you blanket a lot of hots out there and you got Rejuves going, you got your Wild Growth going, you got your Efflorescence out there with possibly Spling Blossoms as well. You got maybe a regrowth heal on your tank and your Light Blooms out there. You pop Essence of the Mother Tree and all of those just tick so much faster. While I stand here at AFK, you'll also notice there is a small particle effect on the ground when you stand still. It's the same thing of effect that Frost DK has, where like the frost grows, but you just grow a bunch of like, it's a flower texture. It looks okay. I kind of wish it was a little more 3D. It's just a flat picture. It's a nice touch though, but it's not like, oh my goodness, it's just kind of neat. So, okay, the Mother Tree. Let's jump in here. Your path is branching, as it is a giant stick. So you would start off with grabbing Nature's Vigor, which is 15% more healing on Rejuvenation, your #1 spell. I'll jump over the fact that you cannot see your Paragoning ability, which it would be per 1 point in your Paragoning artifact talent circle, which will eventually come later on. You gain 0.5% healing done. They have kept the 1% damage done per perk unlocked for healers, but they have reduced for everyone. The stamina unlock was 1% per point unlocked. Now it is 0.75% stamina. So they have somewhat lowered the stamina scaling on the artifacts for everyone involved. It's not like getting tons of extra HP. We're still going to have high HP to help with boss damage and the healer stickiness for damage, but it is not as potential as it was before with everyone having like 3.5 million HP already. So that's Nature's Vigor. We're going to go down first, because probably these will be the first ones you're going to pick up as a Restoration Druid. Infusion of Nature, the mana cost of Wild Growth is reduced by 10%. Again, it's your most expensive heal, so now it's a really ugly 67320 mana cost, but it's 10% reduced mana cost on Wild Growth, which is super important, given the fact that it costs so much mana. Persistence increases the duration of Moonfire, Sunfire, and Rejuvenation by 3 seconds. So now both Sunfire lasts for 15. Your Moonfire will last for 19, awkwardly, and Rejuvenation lasts for 18. So a little bit more damage on your Sunfire and Moonfire, and 1 additional baseline tick on Rejuvenation, which is kind of like a mana talent in and of itself, because you get a free amount of healing from that. A mana talent for sure is Knowledge of the Ancients, which is 6% more mana regeneration, which I will take a side detour here real quick, that unless there are artifacts, talents, spells, or even possibly trinkets in the future that increase your mana regeneration, there's no in or out of combat mana regen anymore. That's gone. It's just mana regen, period. There is also no way to influence mana regeneration other than those aforementioned things. Your mana regen will be the same from the start of tier 19 to the end of tier 21 or 22 or whatever how many tiers we have in Legion. It'll always be the same amount unless you have, again, an Innovate on you, or a Mana Tea like a Mistweaver Monk, or a trinket that might give you more. It's the same, so that's why mana matters in Legion so much, because you have to always care about it. It'll never get easier to have more mana. It'll be easier to heal and be throughputty because you'll have stronger heals, but your mana regen is always the same. So this extra 6% for the Resto Druid, I think, couples with the fact that you cast so many instants to help you keep your mana going. You also have the Seeds of the World Tree. The Living Seed heals for an additional 30% of the initial heal which planted it. So by default, it's 50% of the heal that crits. Now it should be 65%. 30% of 50 is 15. You also have Natural Mending, which is 30% more healing on Swift Mend, which is nice. Grove Walker, which increases the healing over time you do by 3%. So overall, 3% more healing on all of your hots. In a way, it's kind of like a 3% passive mastery gain on all of your heal over times only. But it's just 3% more healing, period. Which you're going to be doing a lot of healing over time as a Restoration Druid. Nature's Essence is when Wild Growth is cast, there's also an instant heal component to it. And it's actually called Nature's Essence in your spellbook. In your tooltip as well. Nature's Essence hit all these people around me. So the Training Dummy, the Guard, the Training Dummy, the 2 guards over there. So it's an instant little heal on top of your wild growth as well, which is just nice. It's literally just free healing for 1 point on the giant twig. The blooms of Ganir is 50% more healing on the bloom from Life Bloom. PvPers rejoice, I suppose. In raids, this is like not really a big thing at all. So, yeah, that's about all it is. I'm gonna say Ganir again one more time so people can freak out. It's a weird, pause. It's a weird name, okay? Because you look at it thinking like, oh, is it Lovecraftian, like Cthulhu and Enzoth? Or is it like Blizzardy where it's Cthulhu and Nazoth? Or is it, so, whatever. Tell me in the comments below, please. Mark of Shifting is while in travel form, cat form, moonkin form, or bear form, you heal for 1% of your max HP every 3 seconds. So, Displacer Beast for your movement tier, or if you go into Dash, it pops up right there. It looks like a rejuvenation effect when you actually go into it. And it only will heal you effective health. It won't overheal you, because that would be kind of ridiculous. But, I mean, you're going to use Dash for mobility sometimes. You might, be using Travel Form in PvP, obviously, or in questing and whatnot. Again, you might be using Boomkin Form for questing, for, like, face tanking mobs. So you'll actually have Ysera's Gift healing you, and you'll also be having Mark of Shifting healing you as well. So even if once they figure out and tune healer DPS to not be so much heart garbage to be able to quest, you'll actually have a lot of self-sustain when you're pulling mobs and face tanking when you're with your Moonkin Restokin face. Essence of Nordrassil is 15% more healing by efflorescence. It's nice. It's a very expensive heal as well. Armor of the Ancients increases the reduction in damage that Ironbark provides by 6%. So Ironbark is 26% damage reduction for 12 seconds on the target, you or otherwise. Blessing of the World Tree increases the healing done by healing touch, and the initial healing done by regrowth by 10%. Just more free healing. That would, because they're both single target heal increases, that would directly increase the amount of healing done by Living Seed, even if Living Seed is kind of like your lowest source of extra healing, because, it is. It's just nice to have it, I guess. All right, I'm going to go from weakest to strongest, in my opinion, of your gold unlocks or your gold dragons. Dreamwalker is Wild Growth, has a chance to momentarily shift your mind into the Emerald Dream, instantly healing all allies affected by your rejuvenation by 31,000-ish or whatever your spell power is. So this, when it procs, there's 2 things that happen on Wild Growth, so I'll go over the other one right now too, which I think is the stronger one. So I guess my aforementioned statement is strongest we go, whatever. I'm kind of dumb sometimes. Power of the Archdruid is also on Wild Growth. Goodness me. Regrowth, Rejuvenation, Wild Growth, you get it. It's Druids. Power of the Archdruid, this next golden unlock will make me feel so vindicated in all the nonsensical, like, yelling and whining you guys have done on the forums for so long, and my damn show. So, Wild Growth is a 25% chance, a 1 in 4 chance, to cause your next rejuvenation or regrowth to apply, that's why I get confused, to apply 2 additional allies within 15 yards of the target. So if you proc Power of the Archdruid, and then you cast a rejuvenation, it'll apply that to 2 more targets, so you get 3 rejuves to the cast of 1. Or if you cast a regrowth, it'll also initially hit 2 other targets nearby, and then leave the hot on them as well. So the 2 of these together is why I'm going to tell you this, because Dreamwalker can proc, and so can Power of the Archdruid. So, let me proc real quick here. Nope, neither of them procced. So, I mean, what's it called? The Dreamwalker always procs, because as long as you have rejuvenations up, which I will cast these right here, keep those rejuves going. Then if you cast Wild Growth, boom, you will see right here, Dreamwalker healed all those targets that had, there's 4 of them right here. Dreamwalker instantly healed them. Now remember, Dreamwalker will heal all targets with rejuvenation on their heads. But then Nature's Essence also heals all targets hit by Wild Growth. Wild Growth only hits 6 targets by default, So you could put up a ton of rejuves, but only up to 6 of them, randomly of course, will be able to be hit by Dreamwalker, but all 6 that are hit in the first place with Nature's Essence will also be healed as well. So a lot of extra potential healing there. Let me see if I can get a Archdruid to proc. There it is. So I'll put this rejuvenation on myself and watch the target dummies. Boom. So now, for one cast, you've got a rejuve here and a rejuve here. You can lay out some crazy hots. And not time to be vindicated. Tranquil Mind increases the healing done by Tranquility by 20% and now castable while moving. If you knew this was coming, it's not a big surprise, but you can move while casting Trank, so you're basically Malfurion from Here's the Storm. But for the longest time on my show, and hearing right through the webway on the internet, is that Tranquility is such a bad heal. You have to stand still in turret and you can't move while healing, blah, blah, blah. But it's such a good throughput heal. But that's just a gigantic benefit, of course, to Tranquility overall. So, there you go. Now you can move while tranking. No more crying about it. Maybe you didn't cry about it and you understood the potential bonus of actually knowing when to Tranquility properly. Anyway. But Dreamwalker, huge bonus to Wild Growth. And Power of the Archdruid gives you burst healing with having to be able to AoE regrowth or extra rejuvenations, which then also buff up Dreamwalker. And of course, work together with just having more hots out and easier to then stack other ones on top of things with your mastery, of course. But that is Ganir, the mother tree, the giant twig, the big stick, because it's got a lot of power caked into all these perks. But I'm pretty sure, starting out, based on my testing understanding, you're always going to get Nature's Vigor, but getting Infusion of Nature, Persistence, and Knowledge of the Ancients into Power of the Archdruid might be really good to start out with on your path. Because mana regen, extra free healing, and a little bit more damage while questing, as well as mana reduction on your most expensive spell, and then a chance on your then reduced most expensive spell to give you free rejuves or free regrowths, is a lot of additional potency for the early phase of raiding and keystone dungeons to get gear or whatever have you. Heroics, whatever you do. It's actually pretty impressive, this little path right here. And this gets a little bit more endgamey on these two, whereas Tranquility doesn't really come into play a lot more until you're progressing on hard difficulty content. So, we'll see. It's all pretty fantastic, I think. They did a really good job, I think, putting a lot in here for the Restoration Druid. Talent time. I've had a couple of talents tested right now. I will go over the basic ones that all druids have and kind of just brush those away out of the side real quick here and not go about them anymore. You'll notice my level 60 tier right here is blinking. I wanted to show off the effect when you don't have a talent selected now. There's this like little yellow blinking effect behind it. I guess the honor talent thing does it too. You can see it right there on the top bar. But this is your CC tier, Typhoon, your frontal knockback, your mass entanglement. Pick a target, root it, and it roots around the target. Mighty Bash, single target stun. So these haven't changed at all, really, for the Restoration Druid. You know what they do, so I'm not going to just go into how they work. Wild Charge and Displacer Beast are as they have been. Displacer Beast is the caveat. Balance Affinity makes you blink further. I'm pretty sure we tested that. Yes. The blink is 20 yards without it, and 25 yards with it, which is a pretty crazy thing. Whoop. Of course, you go into cat form, so you gain your Mark of Shifting, I guess you say. And you gain a little heal over time there, and of course you go into the blink and a little bit of a sprint afterwards. And Wild Charge is still the multi-use different thing based on your form. So it really depends on what kind of movement you need, because you're going to take Displacer Beast most of the time, or Wild Charge, probably for PvP in different situations like that. And Renewal is just kind of like... yeah. I don't think when they brought up Renewal in chat today, everyone was like, yay, okay, just put Displacer Beast on your bar and never take it off. Which, has arguments to be made for either one of these talents, Displacer or Wild Charge, depending on the situation you are in. So, that's how it is. They haven't changed at all, really. They're both good movement talents, which is why Renewal on the same tier makes it kind of like, eh. Now, you notice I had everything on the right side of my talent screen selected. I'm going to go in this order. I'm going to go down the entire column because they are thematic in a sense that this is how you kind of choose, like really straightforwardly, that's a word, right? Your way to heal as a Restoration Druid. All right, so the right far side is all about healing over time. The middle is about cooldowns and additional utility. And the far left is very single target focused. So we'll start with the AoE focused oriented hot build because that's kind of what most Resto Druids probably be looking forward to the most, or the most fun to play, or the most fantasy driven. Germination is as it was. You get 2 rejuvenations if you want to. You get rejuvenation and rejuvenation germination. There is that. The tooltip for germination updates based on your mastery. You see that? Now they're both like the same value. Which was kind of weird when I first saw that, but the amount of healing that happens is obviously, you know, added up at the same time. It's the exact same amount of healing that count as 2 hots for your mastery purposes, and they do Pandemic, of course, through 30% of the overall duration. That's germination. You have cultivation, which is when rejuvenation heals the target below, or a target below, 60% health. It applies cultivation to the target, which is a small version of rejuve, and it's a low heal over 6 seconds. However, if the target stays below 60% HP and a rejuve keeps ticking, then it will keep applying cultivation, and it does count as a hot for healing purposes. I'll bonk myself by the Raider String down real quick here. The cultivation heal does not proc on cast of rejuve. It will proc on whenever rejuve heals. Either rejuve or germination will proc the heal. You notice it'll proc right off the bat right here. But as I stay under the 60% threshold, it will keep refreshing cultivation. But you do not get 2 of them for having rejuve and germination on. But it's a huge additional benefit because it does stack with your mastery. So it's just a lot of blanketing. If you love rejuve spam, cultivation is your other talent to take with that for sure. Here's more hots for you. Spring Blossoms. Each time a target is healed by efflorescence, an additional amount of healing will be applied over 6 seconds. But each target that actually gets healed by efflo, to go back to efflorescence real quick, it only heals 3 injured allies every 2 seconds, reduced by haste. So it will heal other people in the duration, like here. But every time it pulses, everyone that gets healed by it will get this little Spring Blossom on them. It's a pretty weak heal entirely, but again, it's another hot. It stacks with your mastery. So you've got potentially right here, right now, there they are. There's your, get out of here. So there are 6 hots on 1 person. So you've got 2 rejuvenations, you've got 1 life bloom, you've got 1 spring blossom, you've got 1 regrowth, and then you'll get 1 wild growth. So there is all 6 of them. 7 would be if you had cultivation up at the same time as well, which obviously only works under 60% HP. But hots for days. So what would make hots for days even better? Look at Flourish. I still think this is a gnome wearing a flowery dress, making a snow gnome angel. But actually, if you look at the larger version, it's like it's a tree druid with flowers in its head and like, you know, leaves falling around it. I don't know. I wish it kind of got a different update because this tooltip is weird. But anyway, the icon is anyway. Flourish extends the duration of all your heal over time effects on friendly targets within 60 yards by 6 seconds. 1 minute cooldown. So Flourish adds 6 seconds to all active heal over times. It is ridiculously powerful. If combined then with the essence of the mother tree, which makes your hots tick faster. So if your hots are going to last longer, and mostly this is really beneficial for things like Spring Blossom and Wild Growth, and in a way also the Regrowth hot, but the Regrowth hot is really weak. You can put out a ton of healing over time effects. Just get them all out there, get them all going. Pop out a Wild Growth, maybe it'll proc. Nope, Sadness for days. And then you hit Flourish, and all of these heals will have a longer duration on all of them. So they'll last so much longer. obviously. So if you layer out all these things, and in a way, the combination of Flourish and the essence of the Mother Tree are kind of a huge pseudo-raid cooldown in and of itself. Obviously, the timers don't sync up exactly. You have to, like, delay your Flourish by 30 seconds to get it up with every time you use Essence, but still, it's a gigantic free. It's free. It costs nothing to use, which is bonkers to me. Free. Totally free. Adds 6 seconds more to all of your current ticking hots. Now, some of you might be wondering, the biggest benefit of this is probably with Wild Growth. We did some math. So, the overall healing potential of using Flourish with Wild Growth is that no matter where you flourish your Wild Growth in its 7-second duration, the healing amount is the same. Due to the factor of how Wild Growth falls off and diminishes every tick, it doesn't matter when you flourish it. What matters about when you flourish it, however, is if you flourish it immediately after casting, you will be extending the Wild Growth at its longest duration, which is the strongest the hot heal will heal for. If you flourish it later on, the healing proportion you're flourishing will be weaker than it as at the first cast. So the trade-off there is that you get weaker heals if you flourish late, stronger heals if you flourish early, so you don't want to make sure you're not overhealing with this ability. But our math we did was that, say a Wild Growth cast I cast right now, which the math is not based on what you're seeing in the spellbook right here. Not directly. But a Wild Growth cast that I did with just the Wild Growth, so only the Wild Growth casting on myself, that bonused 1 time with your mastery, which right now my mastery is at 9% and 9%. It did 59,507 healing over 7 seconds. No crits. No crits are involved in this test. But a Wild Growth instant flourish, it healed for 118,543. Again, no crits. It's obviously not double, because Wild Growth is 7 seconds and Flourish adds 6, but it's essentially almost doubling the potency of Wild Growth. Which again, Flourish is a 1 minute cooldown, so you can't do it all the time, so there's that. But the benefit of doing with, I didn't do the math on this one, if you Wild Growth, Flourish, and then Essence, which didn't proc there we go. So this doubles the potential. So I would assume in a flat way, because, well, Essence doesn't last as long as the whole Wild Growth with Flourish lasts. Because Flourished Wild Growth does last 13 seconds, and the Essence of the Mother Tree only lasts for 8. You would add a huge proportionary extra amount of healing to that as well. You wouldn't double it again, but you'd be adding a huge amount of additional healing, obviously, because it's going to tick twice as fast. So you'll be ticking every 0.5 seconds, not every second. So it's actually wild how much play you can get with just layering out all these hots and then just going to town on utilizing Flourish and utilizing your artifact procs, if they actually would ever proc. And then, of course, getting your Flourish in there to extend the duration of your hots, rather, healing all of your allies all the time. Can I get a Wild Growth proc, please? Nope. Of course, I got the, they actually heal from that. That's just totally acceptable. Excuse me. But it's pretty wild. Just extending the duration of your hots even more so than they already do. Which, in a way, is mana management as well. Because if you put up a bunch of hots and then extend the durations, you don't have to cast them as often. Because they're up for longer, so you actually save mana, if done properly. But that is the right side of the tree. That is all super AoE-oriented, hot-based healing. I'm going to jump over to the left side real quick, because it's a little bit less, like, crazy to talk about. Prosperity, 2 charges of Swift Mend. That's it. Alright. It's good. Soul of the Forest, however, is whenever you cast Swift Mend, you gain Soul of the Forest, which up here in this corner. Which increases the healing of your next regrowth or rejuvenation by 200%. Or the next increases the healing of your next Wild Growth by 75. So it's like, it's okay. It does have the synergy to be a little bit more AoE healing whenever you Swiftmend, as you're used to with Soul of the Forest, but for the most part, the biggest benefit is very single target oriented by being able to dump gigantic rejuvenations out there. 200% stronger rejuves, that just healed from more than a healing touch. So, but it's still very single target oriented with weaving in multiple Swiftmends. And if you don't take Prosperity, you've only got one Swiftmend every 30 seconds. It's not that great. Abundance, which you saw there popped up, is that for each rejuvenation you have active, the cast time of Healing Touch is reduced by 10%, and the critical effect chance of regrowth is increased by 10%. So with 4 rejuvenations out on the playing field here, you will have a 100% crit chance on regrowth, which is fantastic, I guess. It'll always crit, because you have the 40% crit chance plus 60 baseline. That's super single target. Or you get really fast Healing Touches, which we went over earlier. Healing Touch is basically free forever. And Abundance keeps going and keeps stacking forever. I don't think there is a cap on Abundance. So you can get really fast Healing Touches. And again, Healing Touch will start costing more mana as the more you cast it, but effectively it's free based on your mana regen. It's cool, but it's very single target. And the Moment of Clarity is Omen of Clarity now affects the next 3 regrowths. Not 1, but 3. Which is great. It's mana management. But, I mean, you can Prosperity into this and then get a crazy big free regrowth. And you can do the same thing over here and do the same thing over there. But this whole tier, if you take all of these talents anyway, is very single target. Of course, min-maxing and mixing around is what you need to do as a healer. But for the most part, the left side is all single target. The right side is all AoE and hot base. So the middle now, Cenarian Ward, is sort of like I mean, let's be real. It's like Prayer of Mending meets a Rejuve. You put up a 30-second duration buff that when the target is attacked, they will have a gigantic hot on for them for 6 seconds. Yes, it works with your mastery, but it only lasts for 6 seconds, and you don't get Germination by taking Cenarian Ward. But it's a huge heal. It's a massive heal. Also, butterflies. Little green butterflies. But it's very cheap, and it's like a rotational whoopsie-doodle, but I don't know. In this regard, I don't know if Cenarian Ward is worth it. It's kind of good for, like, tank swapping, I guess, if you're, like, preemptively healing your tank, right? But it's okay. Incarnation is here. I mean, combat still, of course. Which is still broccoli form. If those of you that are asking about the Trient form that was purely cosmetic, Blizzard is adding things in the game that are like toys that have cosmetic transformations in them that are usable over and over and over again, basically. I know that the Water Shield is gone for Restoration Shaman, but there is a toy that gives you the cosmetic for Water Shield, which is like a 5-second cooldown and it lasts for an hour. It's very possible they'll add the goofy little Trient stick form in later on. As a toy you can just purchase at your, like, class hall. So you can take Incarnation, Broccoli form, Tree of Life, which is Broccoli form. That's still there. What it does is it gives you 15% more healing done, 120% more armor, lasts for 30 seconds on 3-minute cooldown, and it increases the functionality of Rejuvenation, Wild Growth, Regrowth, and Entangling Roots. So Entangling Roots becomes an instant cast. Regrowth becomes an instant cast as well. Rejuvenation is 50% stronger and 30% cheaper on mana cost, basically making it wicked free. And the last one, what was it again? It was Wild Growth. Heals 2 more targets. So it goes from 6 to 8 targets during Tree of Life, Broccoli form. So Broccoli form is still, I think, a terrible model because the animations are like the exact same for everything you do. I wish it had like a little variance there. But it looks cool. But it always does the ba 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 mouth. And it just does the same wiggly arms whenever you cast anything. I wish it had different animations. I really do. But it sadly does not. There's the instant roots there. Here's another Wild Growth happening. I got the regrowth, the rejuvenation proc there from Archdruid. Like, it's a huge cooldown. But again, with that middle tier being all about sort of utility and cooldowns, Incarnation can be its own cooldown if you factor in lowering out 8 people with Wild Growth and then blanketing a bunch of rejuves and then popping essence of the mother tree, and then all those things take so much faster, right? Well, you'd rejuvenation first, then wild growth, and then essence of Gunir. So you would do all that at the same time. It's a pretty huge cooldown. And then also you would have Tranquility for another cooldown too. So you can basically bring 2 raid cooldowns between Incarnation, Tree of Life, and Tranquility. Speaking of Tranquility, Inner Peace is a minute off the cooldown. So it has a 2-minute cooldown now. Not a 3-minute cooldown, but a 2-minute cooldown. That's it. That's all it does. Which still, if you need more raid cooldowns, cool what you want. And then Stone Bark is a buff to Iron Bark. Iron Bark. You reduce the cooldown of Iron Bark by 30 seconds, which makes it a 1-minute cooldown. It also increases the healing from your healer time effects by 20%. So it's a pseudo nerf and a buff at the same time, due to the fact that Iron Bark used to count towards your Harmony Mastery and count as a hot. So in this current build, you'll be able to actually have 8 hots on a target, 7 with Cultivation included, and Spring Blossoms, and then Iron Bark would be 8. But right now they removed that and made it more of a single target focused thing, where obviously it is, but the 20% healer time effect only would apply to your hots that you have on the target you're putting Iron Bark on, and taking it away from your mastery nonsense means that it incentivizes making it a little stronger, I think, for a tank cooldown. Which it is, or it's yourself, you know, it can save yourself, or a rogue who stood in the poopy crap, or it can save your tank, or your hunter that's kiting something, you know, whatever. Multi-use, but having a 1-minute cooldown alone is enough because it's already buffed by your artifact to 26% damage reduction. So it's a pretty great cooldown, effectively a 48-second effective cooldown due to the fact that it lasts for 12 seconds. But that's the utility extra cooldown tier, and again, far right is hots, raid healing. Middle tier is like cooldown stuff, and far left is all single target. Which I kind of like that, because you can piecemeal together what you want to do. Like, Soul of the Forest is still good, even if you don't take Prosperity, because you can still get that really meaty additional bonus healing on a Rejuvenation for your tank, or a Wild Growth for your raid, but obviously it's a 30-second cooldown on Swiftmend. So only so often can you take benefit of that. But if you're not going to use Cultivation, because you have to have Rejuves taking on low health targets, or not low health, but 60% health targets, then, you know, you only have so much that you can do there. But that's the Restoration Druid. I think there's a ton of power in here, and some definite choices to change up your rotation. There are, of course, some procs to pay attention to properly utilize, of course, as you go through. On our talents. Stop it. And let me know what you think in the comments below. If you made it through the entire video, leave your best jokes about sticks or trees in the comments below. Tree or stick-oriented jokes. Don't post like a paragraph or like a huge wall of text. Just, you know, if you have them. Thoughts about how to pronounce the big stick on your back's name as well. Hit that like button. Helps me out a great deal. Subscribe to see more of these in the future, of course. If you made it this far, I hope you already did. Check out the video description box below for the full VOD of my testing I have done, which I go through more things a little bit more in depth and not like summarizing. We actually figure out math and go a little deeper. And other ways to support the channel right here on YouTube and, of course, on TwitchTV. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next Legion testing second pass video. All that stuff.